Alright, hey guys, it's Leah C here, and I just wanted to make a quick video. So those of you who have watched the Maid of Honor discussion last night, I wanted to just make a quick video because my opinions on the episode have changed drastically. Now, for those of you who don't know, I usually record directly after the episode airs, so I don't really have enough time to digest it. Like in this case, I think I had like 5 minutes before recording. And I didn't really have enough time to think about the episode, and after reading through the comments section on that video and thinking more about the episode and rewatching it, I have to admit, credit where credit is due, I was wrong in what I thought about the episode initially, and my opinions have changed greatly on it. And I just want to kind of be as genuine as possible, so this is going to be unscripted like the last video was, and I'm just going to be talking about what my thoughts and opinions that changed on it. Now, the one thing that does still stay the same with my opinion is that I do still think that it was rushed, and I still think it could benefit from being a 22-minute episode. That's like the only thing, in my opinion, that stayed consistent from the last video. And this is in like no way to, I don't know, this isn't in any way to completely disregard what I said before. If you guys still want to go watch the video, it's still going to be up. I'm not going to take it down or anything, but just know that that's not what my opinion is anymore. This video is my new opinion on the episode. So like I said, still have the problem with it being too quick. I still think it should have been a 22-minute episode, and it still seemed rushed, at least to me. But overall, I think that the episode was very strong. And here's the thing that we really talked about and we really had a problem with in the last episode. We had a problem with the fact that, one, Steven was being immature. I don't think that anymore, that he was being immature. And two, we didn't like how the gems, and this was the one that we talked about the most, we didn't like how the gems accepted bismuth right away. And the second one is the one that I had the biggest opinion change on, and I don't have a problem with that anymore, and I'll tell you guys why. The entire show has been about Steven gaining the gems' trust, and about the gems starting to trust Steven. So, by going by that logic, it does make sense that they would be fine with bismuth and trust her automatically if, you know, bismuth is holding Steven's hand at the warp pad. If he shows up holding her hand, then since they trust Steven, and since we've spent literally the entire season up until when they first started trusting him, which is I think the first time that he got abducted by himself, was when they really started trusting him with his own things. This is what we've been building up to. They want to trust Steven, and it even goes more so on what Bismuth was saying before about Steven being the leader of the Crystal Gems. So I think I misunderstood it the first time, and I credit where credit is due. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. In this case, I was wrong, and I let my knee-jerk reaction get ahead of me. In this case, I really do think that it was a beautiful way of executing it. I do wish that we saw more interactions between the rest of the gems and bismuth, but I do understand that they can't fit everything into a 10-minute episode. But again, what I really liked about it is that they're establishing Steven as a leader. And if Steven trusts somebody, and if Steven accepts somebody back into the group, it means that the gems are going to trust it too, because he's earned the gems' trust. That's been the entire point of the season, is that he's earned the gems' trust, and that's what he's been trying to do. So it would make sense for them to trust the fact that Steven's with bismuth, and Steven's not being hurt by bismuth, so then everything must be okay. And of course they're going to be happy to see bismuth, because like I said in the other video, they're war friends, they're war veterans together. Garnet, Ruby, Sapphire, and Pearl are all war veterans with bismuth, so of course they're going to be happy to see her. And like Steven said, if they were keeping her bubbled because they wanted Steven to be safe, then they don't need to do that anymore. And I do think that they did do a very good job with being like, okay, well, he's not in danger anymore, first of all. And second of all, he's right there with bismuth, and he's the one who's accepting her back in. And if he is taking the leader position, like bismuth said, then yeah, they're gonna trust him. That's all I'm trying to say. I was wrong, at least in my opinion. I was wrong about that whole thing. And I wish that I saw it sooner, because in retrospect, it wasn't something very difficult to miss. I guess it was more so knee-jerk reaction recording right after I watched the episode, so I didn't have time to digest it. And that's always the problem with those sort of things, is that you don't have time to really think, you just do. And unfortunately, in situations like this, it really does matter when you get things out. Not saying that it's an excuse, but this is just one of those cases where it proves to be important that you need to have time to react to things before you actually react to them. It's not really always smart to make a reactionary video. And in this case, I think usually most of the times, my discussion and knee-jerk reactions aren't as bad as last night's was, but in this case, I really do think that I didn't really understand it the way if I were to have watched it again before commentating on it. So that was the main thing. The other thing was Steven being immature about it. I don't think he was being immature, though I will say that going off of what happened in What's Your Problem, he maybe should have, I still think he should have tried to take one of the gems with him, but at the same time, like, he knew what he was getting into. He knew it was dangerous. He looked like he had somewhat of a game plan. I wouldn't really necessarily call him irresponsible for doing it. It's just, I don't think he expected Bismuth to be friends with him automatically either. I do think it was somewhat reckless of him to do. I mean, I wouldn't really call it immature, but I would call it reckless. But he had a game plan, and I think he knew somewhat of what was going to happen, so he was prepared for it. I mean, if worst comes to worst, the gems were right outside, and they could have, all he had to do was run out there. So, I mean, I guess in that respect, there's nothing really to go after there, is what I'm saying. He's still a kid, he's still a teenager. It's not like he's going to be mature 24/7. I do think that it still seems a bit rushed that he decided to go down there by him, but it doesn't really matter. Realistically, I do think that this episode was very strong and it was well paced. I think that they did the best that they could do, and I'm actually, the biggest flaw that we thought that it had in last night's discussion, I think is actually the episode's biggest, not weakness, but its biggest strength last night. And the thing too that Steven said, not as a leader but as a friend, I think that's definitely showing that Steven is not the same as Rose. And Bismuth kind of already knew that from the last time that Steven said that he was going to tell everybody about what happened. But this time it only drives it home more so, because Steven is, well, yes, he's an inspiration to be a leader. It's not like he is the type of leader that's going to force you to do things. He's your friend. He's there to give you advice. He's there to help you in situations where you need to be helped. So he's not just a leader. He's also a friend, and the reason why people follow him is not because he's authoritative. It's because he's inspirational, and it's because he knows how to make people feel better. He knows what to tell people when they're upset. So he's a leader in that respect. And there's many different types of leaders that you can be. And like somebody pointed out in the comments section of the last video, Bismuth realized that the type of leader that Steven is not the same type of leader that Rose or Garnet is. Steven is very much, hey, how you doing? Are you sure you're doing fine type of a leader? Like, you know what I mean? He's just very personal. He's very friendly. It's not like he forces people to do things. It's more of like suggestions. So I do think that in that case, it played into it, and I think it was beautiful the way that it ended. I really do like how it ended, and my thoughts have changed a lot on it, and I do think in retrospect we were a little bit too hard on the episode, at least in my opinion. I don't know if Pie Guy's opinions have changed at all, but I know that mine have after watching it and thinking it over more. I love Bismuth, just getting that out there in case anybody didn't think that I liked Bismuth. I love Bismuth as a character. She's probably one of my favorites. I think she's amazing. And I loved this episode too, and I think that it's probably the best paced one out of, I think that still the best paced one was Now We're Only Falling Apart. I still do think that that was the best paced episode in the bomb. However, this one was probably the second best paced so far, and I think it was very, very good, and I just think that my knee-jerk reaction was incorrect. So I just wanted to make this quick follow-up video saying that I have changed my opinion on the episode. I mean, obviously, if you've listened to it, you know that I've changed my opinion at this point. Like I said before, the only thing that stayed the same is I do think that it should have been a 22-minute episode. That's like the only thing of my opinion that stayed the same. Everything else has turned to positive, and this isn't me trying to get out of backlash or anything. It's that my opinion has genuinely changed, and I know when to apologize and when to remake a clarification video, because I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong, and in this case I was wrong. So that's all I really wanted to say. Reunited's review will be over on Pie Guy's channel. This time I'll try and think a little bit harder before we record on what happened. But yeah, so that will be over there tonight. It's not going to be on my channel. Just wanted to let you guys know, because like I said, people have been confused about the schedule lately. When in doubt, the reviews or discussions will always be out like an hour to 2 hours after. So you really shouldn't, if it's not on my channel, it's going to be over on his channel is what I'm trying to say. And I always post when his videos come out on my discussion tab. So that's all I really wanted to say. Again, sorry for having like a knee-jerk reaction. Now that I've thought the episode over, I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I don't really think that there's that many problems with it, other than it not being a 22-minute episode, but, you know, that's not really the crew's decision. That's not really what they can control. Alright guys, have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys all for Reunited later today.